my cue? Cool. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the John Adams on HBO podcast. Oh wait, we actually have a basketball podcast. Tonight, the Knicks played an extremely undermanned 76ers team, and the best way I can describe this game was like pulling teeth. It was painful and boring and unnecessarily stressful. Um, the third quarter was one of the worst quarters of basketball I feel like I've watched in a while, and it's something that's kind of been consistently happening to this Knicks team. Luckily, most improved Julius decided to show his head, and he was able to lead us to victory down the stretch. I guess a little bit of shout out for Tibbs with going small, playing RJ at the 4 with the bench. That seemed to kind of like get us a little bit of distance where Randle hit a bunch of big shots at the end of the game to seal the deal. A win's a win. It was ugly. There's lots of complaints that I'm sure we're going to all have about this game and what we would like to see differently. And here, Moo, why don't you start?
Yeah, man. Like I told you guys, I was lucky. I only watched when they were on the upswing in the fourth. So the game was rosy to me. I mean, it looked like a great game. But yeah, I mean, I can hear just with the tone of the announcers in the game that this was not a good, especially when they flashed the score. Right, the first half they were doing great, they were up, and then the third quarter they go into their usual swoon. What do you guys think is causing this? Is it just laziness? Is it complacency? Is it?
Well, tonight I could feel like it could have something to do with being the second on the back-to-back. I mean, RJ like had nothing in the second half at all, and we'll elaborate a little bit more. But I think it's got to be complacency. I feel like that's the only thing that really makes any sense. That we just like come out on gangbusters, playing such great offense, and then we just take the foot off the pedal. I mean, I can't think of anything else other than complacency, or maybe just I mean, that's it, really.
The Knicks were shorthanded too a little bit, right? Not as much as the Sixers were, but they were without Noel and Mitch and
Andre. I don't know what it is about Andre Drummond, but he just kills us. It's like he's so mediocre to bad. Every other time I've ever seen him play or ever watched him play, and then all of a sudden, when he's playing the Knicks, he looks like prime Dwight Howard.
I think he's upset because the Knicks didn't sign him or trade for him, and give him a big contract.
Sure, that has to be it, but I mean, like, he's not known for being a good rim protector or anything like that, and he just locked the paint down. I mean, that's got. I mean. How many times there was so many times you saw RJ throw a ball off the backboard and it just not even come close because Drummond was lurking in the paint. It was just ugly stuff.
I mean, how much of that is just the Knicks? Still the general tendency that they don't have really a lot of guys that are really top tier as far as getting to the basket and doing something with it.
I mean, sure that could be a big portion of it as well, but I mean, Rose is pretty damn good at getting to the rim and stuff like that, and he looked like all sorts of
toast a little bit, maybe from last night.
Yeah, and granted, he was like some pretty elite plus minus on the evening, not elite, but he was like plus 15 coming into the first half. But yeah, I mean, he just locked down the paint. Rose, Burks, Kemba, RJ were all horrendous at the rim tonight.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's some good signs. Kemba, fourth quarter, started waking up. I think, with Randle having a huge fourth, it kind of brings up the question, would it be better to rest him more early on or in the third? Right? If he's going to come out flat and the start is coming out flat, maybe you just assume you play a lot of your bench in the third. And then
so I got really excited. Yeah. There was a time in the third where Randle was pulled early after like taking some like really, really bad shots. And Obi was in, and it must have been because like Randle like lost a contact or something like that, because Randle ended up coming back in like the next dead ball. And I thought for a second, I was like, oh my God, Tibbs is doing it. And like Nick's Twitter was like all ablaze because like they're like demanding more Obi. And I'm sure that's something that we should talk about a little bit later. But yeah, I agree with you. I think there needs to be more bench opportunities, especially the starters have just come out flat time and time and time again. Let's
Yeah.
inject some life into it.
And this is after Randall taking it on himself, right, to say that it's my fault and I need to play harder, and then he, basically stinks it up the first half, and
Well, there was
um,
just I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily say stunk it up the first half. He kind of just took a lot of bad shots.
yeah,
And there was a lot of times where like there was one play in particularly that he was playing pick and roll with RJ and he decided to like take a dribble instead of just like hitting the 12-foot jumper. And it happened again too. I don't remember who passed him the ball, but I was just like, dude, I'm like, just catch and shoot the ball. Like you had that
too
opportunity.
much, right?
And that seemed to be like what the big difference was in the second half is that he decided to catch and shoot some jump shots.
Yeah, and I mean, second half he took whatever he got, right? He didn't force it, and I think that's probably the big thing. I'm assuming that he forced a lot of it in the first
Yeah,
half, but yeah, he
yeah,
was a lot smoother.
yeah. He's like, I've been obsessed, and like I know like the mid range jumper has been kind of his bread and butter the last 3 years, but he just hasn't had it this season, and
Right,
it's like, don't dribble. You don't have to dribble too much. Like
right.
that seems to be what has unlocked RJ a little bit from his shooting. And again, we're going to talk in depth about RJ in a second, but yeah, it's like sometimes, don't take that catch and shoot jumper when you have the chance.
I think teams are actually giving him that shot. They're not, right, because they're guarding in case that he puts the ball on or he tries to go inside because that's what he usually does. So
Yeah.
I think teams will give him that outside shot. So he might as well just take it. He can shoot
Right.
it, right? So
Right.
You want to know what I think from a statistical perspective is happening with
yep.
Randall? I think that last year he was able to get away with being slightly more inefficient on those ISOs and those fall away jumpers and the baseline mid range shots that he loves because our defense was more than enough to average out so that even though he
Mm,
wasn't very efficient, we were still able to score more efficiently than the other team because of our defense. But this year, because our defense, let's just say it sucks because it does, those
yeah,
inefficiencies in Randall's game is kind of showing up again because if we can't, out offense the other team, we're gonna lose.
and
And
that's
those shots
yep.
that Randall takes when he's not playing in the flow, he's not playing catch shoot.
Right.
Those are not the kind of shots that we're going to be able to out offense the other team with.
I
Right.
mean, we looked this up like a few games ago. Like Randall was shooting like on pretty high volume from 10 to 15 feet, like 40% last year, and then those numbers were like at 30% this year. I mean, that's a significant drop off. He's just not hitting the shots at the same efficiency as he was last year. And like the past 3 years, that 10 to 15 foot range was about 40%, maybe a little bit higher. I don't remember the exact numbers. I don't have them up in
So
front of me right
the
now.
last 2 years he was about 43 to 44%. This year he's at 39%. So it
Yeah, that's
is a
a
little bit lower, but
yeah.
it's not
It's
a
better than
huge
it was
drop
from
off.
three games ago.
Yeah.
But again, still that's like 4 or 5 percentage points, which is substantial.
I think a lot of
Uh,
it is him pressing, right? Still, he still looks like he's trying to force things and do yeah, and maybe he's not wrong because again, if some of the other Knicks stepped up, right? We talk about defense being a drop because you're placing, Bullock with Fournier,
yeah,
and whatever you say about Peyton being bad, but I think his defense is better than Kemba's.
yeah.
So
Oh
Not by
God.
much.
not by much, but you're not they're really not making it up on the offensive end. So from my standpoint, I think it's still Randall trying to force too much. Um,
Well, you
and
also saw in the fourth quarter when Kemba like actually decided to try to get into the paint. It's like, oh man, like there can be some effective offense run from that action, and I just don't know if he's just like doesn't have the burst anymore, or like he's just not comfortable taking over. But like him not being able to break down the defense is like gets us so stagnant, and that's probably another reason why we fall so flat is that we're like so concentrate on having Randle create in isolation.
I
That
think that's the problem. Yeah.
Yeah, that we just don't create any mismatches. We don't create any rotations because no
We
one
don't
else
get
has
any
to draw doubles.
right. We don't get any easy shots. Right. He's dribbling into double teams, and the ball's really not moving. What I've noticed is the Knicks really, if you look at even the Sixers how they play, definitely with the Cavs, they're using screens a lot.
Yeah.
The Knicks, they don't seem to do that. Their plays usually is just you throw into Randall and see if Randall can either create his own or he passes back out for a three. That won't work against the top teams.
Yeah.
Because you're just making things too easy for them.
Although tonight we did have 25 assists, and there was moments of good ball movement, but like we just did not hit any clutch buckets. I think now is probably a good time to go into speaking about RJ Barrett because, oh man, he could not buy a basket. There were so many opportunities for him to put away the game. He probably had like 3 3-pointers and like 2 layups that like just bricked horribly down the stretch of this game. I mean, granted, he's just come off a 5-game stretch where he was super hot, scoring 20 points, but pretty brutal game tonight.
You guys think he would be considered a streaky player? Not.
Yes.
Okay.
No.
Ah,
I'm just saying.
Kyle, why don't you elaborate?
You guys remember after the first great game he had this year, and I said, I think this is like a taste of what's to come. It's going to come and go as the season progresses. We're seeing it go right now. Like it's not. He's not fully there.
He's not there yet.
But
right.
Anyone who's pointing at this and going, "Look, this is what RJ is." No, it's really not. This is just he's inconsistent. He's a young player. That's to be expected. He still gets that pass because he has shown the ability to be great, but not for much longer. If he's still inconsistent in a couple years, that's when you say, you know what? No, this ain't it.
Yep, I agree.
I just think he's streaky just because he doesn't really put together full games. He gives you halves at a time. So I think that's why he falls into the and I don't think Kyle's necessarily anything wrong with about what he's saying.
Mm-hmm.
We're still only going to see flashes of what he can be because again, he's like a good starter right now. But yeah, I just don't think he's figured out a way to put together a whole game yet. So I think that would fall under the category of streaky. And also, he gets caught ball watching off ball like to a maddening amount of times.
Well, I have to ask, how much of that is on him and how much of it is on defense? Because when it's just one player doing it, it's ball watching. When it's basically everyone sagging off their man to help in the paint, that's the defense. And I think
he's definitely like supposed to be like tagging the roll man and like cheating off people to help on pick and rolls and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean he left Court Moss open for a couple threes today that were where you're just like, oh no, man, like you went way too far to help.
I mean, Kyle has a good point. He's probably tasked to do more defensively, right, than most of the other guys to try to help out. Which is what he should do, right? If for nothing else, because the Knicks really don't have great individual defenders, so you have to have someone try to do, cover space. And RJ's probably, he's got young legs. He's relatively quick compared to some of the other guys on the team. So I don't know. Yeah, I think from that standpoint, I'd give him a pass on poor defensive plays, right? Especially when you watch Randle in comparison, giving up on plays defensively. I mean, Randle's weird because in the fourth he started playing defense, but what about the rest of the game?
That's the most frustrating thing about him is that he kind of like floats defensively all the time.
Right.
And it's like I know we're asking him to create a lot of offense, so it's like I don't want to like beat up on too bad.
Yeah.
Because this was definitely I feel like today. No, the Celtics game too. But those were like Randall's only 2 great games are today and against the Celtics. But like you saw like in that Celtics game and particularly like he really brought it against Jaylen Brown, like locked him up.
Right.
And it's like you have the ability. And then I saw a play on Twitter the other day of him just like not even bothering to run out at a shooter. And then you like compare that to what Taj does where he's contesting every shot on the perimeter, and you're like, come on, Julius, I need a little bit more effort from you.
Yeah, I
But
mean, as a guy that tends to sound like he, I defend Randall more, even like I said, defensively, he just gives up too easily. I think, overall, he tries the least out of anyone on this team defensively consistently, right?
yeah,
Which then, again, like we just said, when he does play defense, he looks great. So it's, I don't know if it's because he's tired or he's saving energy. It's hard to say, and that's where it kind of goes into what I've been saying is everything rolls into everything else and impacts everything else. I think their offense and how much work they have to do to score, and or rely on the 3-point shot hit falling, factors into everything else. And it kind of goes into, I'll ask this question: do you guys think this team is good enough as is? I know it's still early, right? But you get a feeling, right? I think you guys get a feeling of, is this enough to do more than what this team did last year?
I haven't seen us get the offense clicking yet. I think that's the most jarring
Mhm.
thing. It's been 11 games in, and we haven't really had a great offensive game with everybody going off.
Right.
Like I think that's the most concerning thing I've seen so far. I just think that something's missing, and it's pretty substantial.
Yeah. Yeah.
I I like loathe watching Alec Burks this year. I think he's very frustrating to watch. Kemba has also been very frustrating to
Oh,
watch.
yeah.
If he was like, speaking Kemba in particularly, if he could still get like a little bit of dribble penetration, I would take him shooting less threes. Let
Right.
me see what statistically he is three this year, which is probably not great. Anyway, but
Well,
hold
last year he was
on.
great, right?
Yeah, last year he was great. Right now he's 45% from three. I would rather him be at 38 and get more dribble
Or right.
penetration than what he's shooting right now. I would take that trade off in a heartbeat because that was his bread and butter, like getting into the teeth of the
His
defense.
career, yeah.
Right, and it's like I don't even need him to be a great finisher. I just need him to be good enough to draw a double team, get
Right.
the defense rotating. It's why we don't get
Right.
any easy shots.
Right. Yep. That's why we don't get easy shots. That's why Randall dribbles out the clock. Right. It's just not having another guy that can actually do anything with the ball
And it's like
consistently.
Fournier, like RJ's definitely taken a step forward.
Mhm.
I don't think he's as bad as he was last year at creating. Obviously, the Pelicans game was the pinnacle of that kind of stuff. But Evan's supposed to be able to take some pressure off, and so same with Kemba. Like again, it's not even like get all the way to the rim. Kemba
Right.
can like come around a screen, get into that 12 to 17-foot area, and just pull up mid range jumper, make a whole world of difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kyle, what do you give me your take? Give me a hot take.
I think that what you're asking for kind of doesn't make sense from a statistical standpoint. Because you're
Mhm.
saying you want him to shoot less threes, but also be less efficient. That's not how that works. If he usually when you say shoot less, that makes you more efficient. If you know what I mean. So him shooting less threes shouldn't make him shoot 38%. It should make him shoot like 50% from three. If you know what I mean. I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying with the you want a guy who can, get
Yeah.
into the defense a little bit, and yeah,
Yeah. I think Jim's just saying he would rather, worst case, take a 38%,
yeah.
right,
But
and
I
and
but I
have him
mean when
attack.
when you look at it, it's the scouting report says, hey, Kemba's shooting 45% from three. He's not gonna drive a lot. Well, you still got to guard the guy.
You
So
still
I
got
think
right,
that
but
yeah, I think that space is still a benefit to us. But when you look at it, Rose is shooting great from three too this year,
Mhm.
so you can't leave him open either. So
but
between the two
the
of them, Rose actually drives. So right now, Derrick Rose is the better point guard. on
Correct.
offense and on
Yes.
defense. Because while
Yes.
he's not great, he's still not
Which,
terrible.
but that's the I think the problem with this team is that's not a good sign because you can't ride them like
So
the Knicks
yeah,
need to,
so
right?
in
So
an ideal world,
Obviously, he obviously Rose had nothing tonight,
right,
and
yes,
which is why I'm saying is that I would take Kemba shooting worse from three to have him attack the paint more.
more, yeah,
But clearly he is unable to do that and has to float on the perimeter. And it's like it's really great that he's super efficient from three, but most of the time it's not on. I feel like it's not really on high enough of a volume to matter.
I
right,
think
You
I
know,
think
yeah,
like
I
in an
think so.
ideal world, if you look at the starters, I think RJ, Randall, and Evan all need touches. They all need the ball in their hands. I think that might be part of why
Mhm.
Kemba's being relegated to spot a bit. But I think in an ideal world, you'd have like a 3-and-D guy as the point guard, like Patrick Beverly or Marcus Smart. If I had to say, like, ideally,
Mhm.
it would be
A
Miles
trade,
McBride, but that's not realistic at
that's not
all.
gonna happen.
And
no,
Yeah,
no,
he
no,
is a complete
yeah,
unknown. We don't know how good he is at all at anything. So
hmm
I'm not gonna say start him because that would be insane. So I don't know. I think that we definitely upgraded the point guard position over the
but not
offseason,
about as much as
but it's still a problem that we need to
yeah,
fix.
yep, yep.
And we
Uh,
and,
uh,
and we still need that superstar shot creator because Randall
yeah,
is, I mean, he's
just
good, but he's not great at it yet.
you did not want him to be that.
No, he's not. No, and this goes back to the conversation that some of us were having in the offseason is Julius is not efficient enough as a shot creator to be the guy. Even though he is still around league average efficiency,
Mhm.
that's not good enough. You need to be great.
Right. Well, let me ask you guys another question. How much of the Knicks offense, right? So we talk about we've got a lot of guys that need the ball, and maybe they're deferring or they're just whatever, right? They're not used to it. How much is it? Do you think is the offensive system under Tibbs, right? Tibbs has always been known as the defense coach, even when he was, when he was winning the offense, it's overstated, obviously, not 100% accurate. That it was just Rose, right? Going MVP, and he focuses on defense. How much of the struggles of the offense do you think is based on Tibbs and his coaching staff maybe not having the most refined offensive system?
I don't I don't know if that's necessarily it. Because again, we have shown to be explosive with
Right.
scoring at times,
Mm-hmm.
but I just
Yuki
don't
scoring though.
know. Yeah, I just don't know if everyone is fitting really well together in said scheme.
Mm,
If that makes sense.
no, it does. Right, because it's something is not right. We know that. We can see it. Something is not right. They may be what they're 7-4, which is a great record. But when you look at it and you look at the big picture, I think something we probably all agree something's not right. So how do you fix it? Um, is it a trade? Is it something? Is it you know? Um,
I think I think it would help, and I don't know who this person is, but if we can find like another wing that's like can play a little defense next to
mhm,
RJ, and then I know it'll never happen in a million years, but if you can bump Evan into that Alec Burks role,
like a 6 man type,
yeah,
7th man.
yeah, and like I don't mean to have Grimes be the archetype of what the type of player we need because we probably need somebody a little bit better than what Grimes is going to offer you as a
Mhm,
rookie, but like something like that. As I think then you would find people that fit a little bit more in each and every role, especially with Kemba starting. So then
mhm,
Kemba can be like your defined third option instead of like every night RJ and Fournier need to figure out who's going to be getting those touches.
So I have a
I think
question
you
for you on that, Jim.
mhm.
So you said you want to get a wing put next to RJ. Would you rather? So in that scenario, you'd have to get a good player. You'd have to give up
Yeah,
assets.
that's correct.
Likely, if you want a good player, you would have to trade Randall for him. So would you rather trade Randall for maybe a slightly younger wing, maybe like a Jalen Brown type, or would you rather try and package RJ with a bunch of picks and the bench kids that don't play for like a Lillard? And would you rather have, say, RJ and Jalen Brown or Lillard and Randall?
I'd rather have RJ and Jalen Brown. I think
Mm.
I think I think Jalen Brown is like the Paul George redux before he snapped his ankle. And I also think that you have Obi waiting in the wings, and you just see it when Obi's on the floor. And that's like I think another thing we should start talking about anyway about in this game in particular. Um, Momentum shifts as soon as Obi steps on the floor because his energy just never wanes. And granted, like we watched Yang beat him off the dribble a couple times tonight, and then he got pulled, which is not super ideal. But he's so impactful because he's so energetic, and you see that we have energy and like motor issues with this squad where all of a sudden the effort just drops, and I know that's not something that is going to happen with Obi around. And also, the one thing too is I know Jalen Brown creates on the right spots in the floor. We would probably post up less, which would be nice.
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. Yeah, it's a hard one to answer. I do like Jalen Brown a lot. I was one of the
Well,
guys
let's just say
you know,
not Jalen Brown in particular, but wing
Paul
maybe
George.
aged like 24 to 28 and
Um,
pretty good. Like maybe not an all star, but someone who could be an all star.
That's no that I would have to pass, and I would go with Randall and Lillard. It kind of goes to what a lot of times I say is, you want to if you really serious about winning, everything's a risk, right? You could bring Lillard and what he's doing this season could be the norm, right? You could pull a Steve Francis, um, but you know what you're getting, right? You're getting a top tier guy, one of the best guards in the league that can come in and take over that number one role and then allow Randall to focus more on what he has to do rather than trying to, almost be like this, a superstar type player that he's not. I think if the goal is to try to win now, right, and the East is kind of open, that Randall and Lillard would get you closer than a lesser tiered younger wing with RJ, right? That would be more of a rebuild, more like a future plan. I don't know that that's the case. I think right now the best opportunity for the Knicks to have this season is to try to do what it takes to win.
Yeah.
If they make a few right moves, they can come out of the East.
Well,
Because nobody,
now to follow
right,
up on that, since you
right,
said it's about winning and will get you the best chance to win.
right.
When you look at Dame and Randall,
Mhm.
they're really not going to get any better than they are right now. I don't think Dame is going to fall off for a couple more years yet,
Right.
and Randall is in his prime. But what's
Mhm.
the odds that he takes another step, especially with what we've seen this year? He looks to be a little bit worse. So
Right.
you're committing to that. Do you think Dame and Randall is enough to win a championship?
I think Damon Rando would be the core of the next 2-3 years where your front office will need to do what it takes to add the type of team around them to win. What that team is, I don't know, but it's hardest to get the top tier guys, right? So Randall right now is their best player. If they could get Lillard and keep Randall, Lillard was top 10, top 15 player in the league. That's something, right? And then what do you have left? What else? What other moves can you make? Um, if this was, Isaiah Thomas or old regimes and they managed this, I'd be scared to death. Right? I would be scared to death of what they probably won't be able to do, and I'll just end up being a treadmill. I think with this front office, if they could pull something off, and it's always right. You could give up RJ in a hypothetical, right? Maybe we don't have to, but if in a hypothetical and he explodes, and Dame doesn't do any better. I mean, it can happen, but it's a risk. But sometimes you have to take that risk, right?
Yeah.
If you play things always safe, then you're kind of always safe. And safe may get you somewhere, it may not. If we look at the teams in the recent memory winning championships, none of them really played it safe, right? They put all their eggs, all their chips on the table, and they called it, right? Even the Raptors, the
Yeah.
Heat, right? All of those guys, they do what it takes. They'll give up assets if it helps, if they think they can make the right moves to help them win.
I still think you need to know someone else is coming with Dame to make that move.
Mhm.
Because again, like I don't think Dame and Randall beats the
By itself.
76ers or Brooklyn or Giannis or even the Heat right now.
Yeah, I mean,
Is that
it depends on what else you have left after the deal and what else can you do, right? If you have to take a contract, right, because teams are looking at offsite contracts, maybe that's an option, right? So if
yeah,
you can,
like if you're doing like, and I feel like we're getting a little off
right,
topic,
yeah,
but that's okay. If you're doing like RJ, Fournier, and Burks for Dame, and then you still keep the gun loaded with a Grimes, IQ,
mhm,
Obi, Mitch for something else. I don't know what that something else is. Um, I think then you're in a little bit more of money. You
right,
know what I mean?
yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Uh, I feel like that has got to be what like the trades need to be like.
Yeah, I think that's where you take a look at opportunity and you hope that your front office is savvy enough, right? So example would be somebody brought up on the forum, Jeremy Grant, right?
Yeah,
The Pistons are going in one direction. Grant's kind of in a different timeline and a different salary, and with Cade Cunningham and a lot of their younger guys, maybe he's not a fit. And
sure.
how much would it take to trade for him? I don't think it's as much necessarily as that it's going to be mind blowing. So do you make a move if you can add someone like that to Randall and Lillard? That
I
makes the
mean,
team, you know,
that would be something that would make sense. I mean, even for this
right,
team, without making the Dame trade, I feel like a trade like that would make
right,
some
yeah,
sense.
yeah, I think so.
I don't know if he's 100% a full time three, but I know the guy can defend.
That's true.
I certainly know he can defend better than Evan Fournier can.
Yep.
Um, uh, it's pretty brutal watching Evan out there at times,
Hmm.
especially when he's not hitting jumpers. Um, and he was another one tonight that had a bunch of like open looks down the stretch of the game that could have iced it. And
Hmm.
you know,
Right,
our wings turned into the Brick Bros last night.
right, right,
Is
right.
Jeremy Grant really a better offensive option than Evan Fournier though?
Better
Better,
offensive,
Yeah,
I think.
offense.
probably not.
Offense only.
Probably not, but I think from a role standpoint in that hypothetical, he's better. I think as a high end tertiary scorer because I think right now what is happening is he's trying to be a number one option. He's not,
Yeah.
right? Kind
Oh
of
man,
like,
the Bulls beat the Nets tonight.
oh yeah, yeah.
Anyone
Um,
was anyone was curious about that?
Not really.
but yeah, he
Uh,
but as a number three behind Lillard and Randall, he can be really potent, right? Being set up for plays. Um, that's the type of thing, and then you factor in his defense. I think from that standpoint, the defense is there. I think his offense depends on it's only the great players come with offense as is, right? With the other guys, their offense fluctuates based on how well the rest of the team is constructed around them, right, and them around the other team. So I think if you add someone like Grant to Lillard and Randall core, that makes Grant a lot more potent than he is in Detroit right now, which is he's basically going ISO and doing whatever he can. I think that's where somebody like Grant or I I don't I think Mr. Raptor has his contract is too big,
Pascal
but that
Siakam.
yeah, but that would
well,
be kind of a
So you want to play?
he fits less though.
You want
yeah
to
he
play
does.
Siakam and Randall together?
I don't know.
That
Yeah,
fits way
the
way
old
worse than
old
Grant
Siakam,
does.
yes, yeah, that was
Move,
the old.
move stuck in the 1990s again, guys.
Yep, you got it.
Yeah,
No, but
yeah.
I think something like Grant, that would be an example. Other guys, yeah. But it takes a good front office. So I think we have a good one. I don't know if it's a great one, but it's definitely a lot better than what we've had the last 20 years. So, if I'm gonna make this thing, I would want a front office to be aggressive if they're good. I do not want a front office to be aggressive if they're no good. Right? This front office seems to be pretty good. So I wouldn't mind if they become aggressive. Um, I think Lillard is an option. We may like someone like Donovan Mitchell more, but I don't think he's an option. Utah is not going to trade him.
Not yet, at least.
Not yet.
It's
Portland
gonna.
definitely.
Still gonna say, if you want a young guard
Mhm.
who might be able to be had for less than his value, who's struggling on a bad team, De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah, I'm with. Yeah,
Yeah.
sign me up.
He's having a down year. The Kings are not very good. They also are the Kings and are not known for making smart business decisions. Which I
That's
know
true.
people in glass houses and
That's
throwing stones,
that's,
but
that's true. Yeah,
uh,
that's okay.
he's on a big contract. You never
Mhm.
know.
Yeah, I think that would be worth a look as well. Right. I think you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sign me up. Sign me up for that.
I
I think
agree.
sign me up for Grant as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if you could get like Grant for and like an expiring and
No, I think
Ox
it'll
or
probably
something.
take like at least a first round pick.
Oh
Which
yeah,
is
yeah, definitely,
right.
without a doubt.
But at least at that point you're trying to build, right. You're banking on this team being one of the top teams. At which point you're talking about a bottom of the first rounder. Yes,
Yeah.
there's always a chance things get screwed up and you repeat the Isaiah Thomas fiascos, right, where they get a top 3 lottery pick.
Yeah.
But that's a gamble, right? You're hoping with this team, with this front office, that's not going to happen, or it's so rare that late first rounder projected, that's not a lot of value, right? It might be for a team like the Pistons, but not for the Knicks.
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally with that. If you can get rid of Burks and somebody else that you don't really particularly like or need to upgrade, but I feel like Grant is going to be one of those guys that if and when he's moved at the trade deadline, there's going to be a bidding war for him because he's very obviously very serviceable, and making like 20 million a year. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head. But yeah, I could see that. I think if Fox wants out, I don't know if you'd want to come here, but I think if Fox wants out, that should definitely be something that you need to look for.
Yeah.
Because that's what.
I mean, Fox, Grant, Randall, that would give this team also a very different, interesting look. That is, I think, definitely an upgrade, obviously.
Yeah.
And
But
especially if you can get Fox without giving up RJ.
I have to ask though, if you're going after Fox, who's 23 right now, why would you trade RJ for him instead of trying to work out maybe a 3-way and get Randall for him? That RJ and Fox makes more sense than Randall.
My personal take is Randall has a lot more value than maybe some fans are thinking. Right? It's kind of always you look at the guy and it's hard to not focus on the faults, and sometimes you take what he can do well for granted. I think he has value. He's obviously not a perfect player. If he was, we wouldn't, be worked up, and the Knicks would be a lot better off. But it doesn't necessarily mean that his weaknesses are so much that he doesn't have value. I mean, he is what it is. He's arguably one of the best power forwards right now in the league.
I mean, again, if you're selling Randall off, and I'm not recommending or suggesting we do that. One, I don't think the Kings would want him for Fox.
Yeah, that's why I said you would have to do a 3-team deal.
Right.
But I'm not so sure that like IQ Grimes and Mitch doesn't get you Fox and
I am sure it doesn't. I'm just going to put that out there. I am sure that would
Kyle,
not get Fox.
Kyle, if the Knicks can keep Barrett, but would have to shut it, and obviously Randall as well, right? Whether because you could trade him for something else, that's more. But if Knicks can trade for Fox and keep Barrett at the end of the day, would you do it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So what you have to understand is I'm not saying I would rather have RJ or Randall over the other. I'm saying if you go after Lillard, the obvious move is to trade RJ for him because you're saying, all right, we want to win right away.
Right.
But if you go after someone like Fox, you're saying, all right, we want to win, but maybe it might take us a year or two to get there. So you would prioritize in that scenario RJ, who is still a year or two, maybe 3 away from reaching his final form, to Randall, who's already on that big contract. And I mean, granted, he's on a very reasonable contract, but still,
and he's not exactly that old, right?
Yeah,
so
he's
old,
but But if you look at it, he's already at his prime.
Right.
So
Sure.
I think you would have better long term. I'm talking about like 7, 8, 9 years in the future with this. If you would keep
Right.
RJ over Randall in that
Sure.
scenario. Same
Right.
thing with if we're going after like Jalen Brown, Jason Tatum. Any of the younger guys, I would prioritize keeping RJ for. Any of the
But
older guys, I would prioritize keeping Randall for.
but would you guys, right? If you had a choice, you could get Fox, and it's Randall, or you keep right a good number of the other young guys except for Barrett. I would think that I would still trade a good number of the other young guys to add Fox to a team with RJ and with Randall, whether it's to keep him or to move him for something else, right? Because I think his value is better than it's a quality over quantity thing. I think his value is higher than you just a package of Obi and Deuce and Grimes and a late first round pick.
Moo, I'm gonna lay this out for you. If you can
Sure,
get any of the guys we're talking about without giving up Randall or
you
RJ,
would do it,
I
right?
would do that in a heartbeat. I'm only
Sure,
talking
Yeah.
about the if I had to pick one to give up, which
right?
would it be?
Okay,
Yeah, I mean,
fair enough.
I don't know I don't know what this front office is thinking.
Fair enough.
None of us really do. But my big concern is that I don't know if they would want to reboot. And
That's the thing. I don't think so.
even if like grabbing someone like Fox and Grant isn't necessarily like a reboot, it might be they may not think it's worth shuffling around the decks on the Titanic. Just try something to try something. So I think if you bring in Fox and you get to keep RJ, you're going to play a similar style, which Randall doesn't seem to like to run, but Fox and RJ are going to like to run, and I would enjoy watching that a little bit more than what we've been watching lately.
We could always trade Randall to back to New Orleans for Zion.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, God.
why would we do that when that's a straight downgrade?
I yeah.
So should we talk?
I can let my Randall homer out a bit.
Oh, here comes.
So should we get back on this game?
Yeah,
I
let's
feel
get
like
back onto this game. We
I
sidetracked.
feel like for a win, we really don't want to talk about this game.
No, because it was
ugly.
You guys want to talk about something
watch.
positive? Something that I took note of and I really want to say because I get on Nerlens a lot, but
Mhm.
that's not enough to say. He got paid and he's still playing like he's on a prove-it deal. So I have to give him respect for that.
Yeah, I would agree. And I'm not a big Nerlens fan.
Yeah,
He's trying. He's playing like he's playing for his contract.
I think he's just better than Mitch. I don't know if that's like a conversation we need to start having now.
Well, he's not, but go on.
Yeah, I don't think he. I don't.
I don't know. I feel like the way he doubles, the way he actually like tries to create turnovers. He seems more impactful, especially this fat, slow version of Mitch that we've been dealing with. Mitch may be a better rim protector. I don't think I'll take that away from him, and rebounder, but I don't know. I just seems like Mitch gaining all that weight was a really bad idea, and whoever told him to do that should be
Mitch.
fired.
Mitch, one of Mitch's 7 agents, probably.
But I mean, it seemed like the coaching staff sent somebody down with him this summer, so it wasn't like he was
Right.
he went rogue. Yeah, I don't know. Especially after seeing Jared Allen last night, and while Evan Mobley is a whole other different thing, and
Yeah,
I want to apologize to everybody. I was at a wedding last night. That's why we did not do a pod. But yeah, you watch Jared Allen and you watch Evan Mobley, and like you're like, wow, like I used to think Mitch was like better than Jared Allen, and it's not even close.
The main difference, the thing about Allen is that, and I think the guys mentioned on the Knicks broadcast, he doesn't stop. He doesn't take a play off. He's always aggressive. Mitch is not. And I think it's beyond just physical, right? That he's heavier and thicker and slower, and he's just not tuned in every single play. I think that's why he gets pulled.
He's a little bit of a space cadet, which is something we've always known. He's not not the super highest IQ guy either.
Right, and I think that's what's going to separate him and prevent him from reaching kind of the level I think he wants or he thinks he should get.
Yeah.
right? You don't have to be super talented. You don't have to be Tim Duncan offensively to make an impact, right? Again, if you look at Capella's not an offensive wizard, right? Jared
Yeah.
Allen is not an offensive wizard, but they score because they.
Yeah, neither of them have played for the Wizards. What are you talking about?
Oh, that's true. Who's on the Wizards? Thomas Bryant. Who's
Daniel Gifford too,
Oh
as
yeah, he
well.
looks pretty good too. But yeah, I mean, so that's kind of against segging away, but that'll ultimately come up to, do we extend Mitch, who is the center of the future? Maybe he's not on this team. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. I think Noella is your backup, and
Yeah,
it sucks to have, your backup tied up with $9-10 million of your
that's
cap
probably
space.
yeah. That was my
Um,
biggest problem with this.
He
yeah,
is
but
the second or third most highest paid backup center in the league.
Yeah,
yeah,
And no
yeah,
offense to the guy, but he's not
correct.
he's not worth that money.
Yeah.
sure. Well, I guess another super exciting thing that's happened not only in the Cavs game that we just touched on, but this game as well, is the reemergence of IQ, who's been god awful up until these last two games. 12 points in the fourth quarter last night. He was pretty much the only guy with a pulse. Um, and tonight he hit a bunch of big threes. It looks like his jumper's coming back around. Give me some IQ takes, guys.
Um, yeah, I think with him, it's just a matter of confidence, right? He's a young guy too, and I'm sure that coming into the season, right? Last season, he had a lot of leeway, even as a rookie, because there just simply wasn't a whole lot of depth or talent. Now if you add Fournier and Walker and guys that, even though they haven't shown it, they need minutes. So his role's
Uh,
gotten obviously pushed back, and he's, he needed to adjust to it. I think he's probably finally adjusting to it, and he's just, bringing back. He's always been a confident guy. I think he lost some of that, or he just couldn't tune it or focus that confidence. It looks like his confidence is back. I mean, that's what he's got to do, right? He's got to forget about being a point guard. He's a scoring guard, and he shoots and he scores and he plays with energy, and that's what he is. So I think maybe that's the Knicks too, right? Because I know they tried working with him to make him a point guard. It doesn't seem like that's an ongoing plan. If it is, it really hasn't worked because he's just not that type of a player. So maybe there's realizing and saying, you know what, you focus on what you do well, which is shoot and play aggressively.
His defense has been pretty solid,
Yeah,
and his playmaking isn't that like I don't think I would stick
it's
the ball in his hands for
right.
25 minutes or whatever a night. But he had 3 assists tonight in 15
Mhm.
minutes. That's what you want. You want from your combo guard, your two guard.
Right.
I would much rather watch him try to create.
He's made some really nice passes this year too.
I mean, I would
Much
much rather
better
watch
than-
him create than
You've
Burks.
seen before, yeah.
Oh,
I
that's
think,
why it's like, for me, it's like I just want to get Alec Burks off this team. I'd rather have Grimes play next
I
to,
would trade
to
Burks
Rose.
to the Cavs for Ricky Rubio.
yeah.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I don't know if they would want that or need
Probably
that,
not. No.
but
I think
now,
I think
especially
the thing
now
is
with
Moody.
what's his.
I think
Yeah.
the thing is that I think we get too caught up in like, oh, he's a point guard, he's a shooting guard, he's a scoring guard,
Mhm.
whatever. I think the labels at this point in basketball just don't really mean much anymore. Because like he's the point guard in the sense that he's going to be guarding the opposing point guard because
Right.
he's a small guy on the floor.
Mhm.
So is he going to be the main ball handler? Probably not. He's a combo guard. He
Right.
can score. He can score a little. He can pass a little. So
Oh.
he is developing his passing, which is a good thing.
Mhm.
He's never gonna get to like you probably remember back in the 70s, Walt Clyde Frazier. We just don't see that kind of basketball anymore. Your point guard doesn't really your point guard is always going to be score first nowadays if you want to be a good team. So I don't know. I think that when we get into that talk of he
Mhm.
can't be a point guard, he's not a point guard because he score first. That sounds like boomer talk to me.
It may be. I think if the Knicks had a better, traditional point, that wouldn't be so bad. But it's just yeah. I'm kind of old school, so I expect the point guard to be able to run an offense, and his focus is making everyone else better, and that's where I know obviously that's not the league nowadays, but you still want somebody that can actually uh, kind of, I don't want to say magic with the ball in their hands, but you kind of, you want to be like a magician, somebody that can handle the ball and dribble and split defenses and just, drop guys on their heels. And that's not IQ, right? So
I just don't think he scores enough at the rim. I think that's
that's the other
my
problem. Yeah. And
yeah.
that
I think
has to,
that's my big issue with
I think
him.
that has to do with his ball skills.
By definition, Jim,
Mhm.
scoring 0 at the rim will never be enough.
That's Frank.
Yeah.
Well, no, like let's be serious. He's not good at scoring
He's
at the rim. He can't. He's does not have a layup package.
Right.
He's
And,
like
and that's
he's
my
like me
point.
out there. I can't do a finger roll for anything. I just float it.
Ah.
I mean, I still suck, but it goes in
Oh,
every
with the
once in a while.
turnaround. With the 15-foot
All right.
turnaround.
All right, guys. Why don't we do a scrub of the night?
Yep.
I feel like we're probably at that time of the podcast as we've rambled on pretty long and about things that are totally not related to this game.
It was interesting. It was an interesting
Yeah,
conversation.
maybe,
You want us to go off topic and talk about things that aren't related to this game? I can do that.
No.
Yeah, so I just started watching John Adams on HBO, which was a part of my intro there. Stars Paul Giamatti as one of our founding fathers.
Yeah. So I finally started watching Squid Game, by the way.
Oh, you
did?
Yeah.
How far
many
did you get?
episodes?
Yeah.
I'm on the 7th episode. I'm trying to.
Oh, that's pretty
I
good.
want us to finish the podcast so I can finish it. That's what I'm gonna do first.
Yeah, my kids love it. They dressed up as Squid Games. One as the girl 4, 5, 6, I think was their number, and the other one as one of the guards in red with the square on their mask.
You need
So,
a PlayStation controller.
Yeah.
Moo, are you Korean American or what's your heritage?
What do you mean?
That was a pretty aggressive. What do you mean?
Yeah. What are you trying to say?
I'm just asking if you're a Korean American or not.
I'll take the fifth on that.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, let's talk about Scrub.
Yeah, let's do scrub of the night.
Let's see. Well, considering we watched the second half, I'll have to go with wow, there really wasn't. Believe it or not, in a game that supposedly was played so bad in the first half, I don't really see any real bad play.
I mean, if you want, I can just go right now.
Yeah, go ahead.
My scrub of the night, RJ Barrett, man.
All right,
I like the kid. I am not gonna be off the train, but man, he was just not good tonight.
He hasn't been good the past 2 nights. It's been Brick City for sure.
And you have credit Drummond for doing a job, and the Sixers, they play defense, right? So even their bench, they're relatively Georges and Niang. That guy, I don't know how, I think Clyde said it. I don't know how he can actually play and score, but he manages it. But yeah, I guess Barrett, right? Even watching him in the second half, everybody else kind of was clicking on, except him. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Jim?
I'm gonna go with Shake Milton.
Really?
Yeah, he pissed me off tonight because he kept. And granted, he only drew a couple fouls, but they were just I felt like they called the game so tightly, and Shake was just getting some BS foul calls that no one else seemed to be getting. Granted, RJ was really bad, but there was a couple times that he definitely got bumped. I mean, he even had a phantom jump ball on somebody.
That was
Danny. Yeah, it was
that
nonsense.
Was funny. Yeah.
And Shake got breathed on a few times, and he was able to get foul calls. So, and he didn't shoot in particularly well. So I'm going to go, and he was the worst plus minus on the 76ers. So he is my scrub of the night.
See, I assumed one of you guys was going to pick Tyrese Maxey because he had a pretty similar game to RJ tonight in terms of box scores.
I think the difference for me is I expect more from RJ Maxey. I expect more from Shake Milton than Maxey. I just don't think right. I think he's their starting point guard, right,
Uh,
positionally with Simmons out or Simmons not on
Well,
the
it
team.
depends if you count him or Steph Curry as the point guard.
Okay. If we assume that he's the point guard, I mean, honestly, he's like IQ from a point guard perspective. At least, Knicks are not starting IQ as a starting point guard. So I just, and he's not as good a shooter as IQ. So I'm just not I don't think that what he did was, outside of what I normally expect from him. You know,
I mean, I guess he's probably just a bench guy that's been thrust into too big of
yeah,
a role,
I think
which
so.
happens to a lot of players.
Yeah.
Like, we saw that last year with like
RJ
Bullock.
Barrett.
Well, yeah. Tonight in particularly, yeah, especially when he could not buy a bucket.
Well, no, let's just
Um,
put it this way: if RJ Barrett had a maxi night, yeah, I would be pissed. If Maxi has a maxi night, I would expect it. So,
fair enough.
yeah.
Any final thoughts on this game before we go?
A win is a win, like the guy said. It doesn't matter if Harrison and Embiid were out. I know the Sixer fans are making that as an excuse why they lost. They got beat, right? So the Knicks, their starters played like they were injured too. So, right, but they still won. Ultimately, it's who wins at the end, and the Knicks pulled it out, right? Even some of their starters, Randall stepped up. They just had, it closed out the Sixers. This is the second win against the Sixers, right?
It is. And the first time they were obviously full strength minus
Right.
Simmons.
So that kind of discounts the notion that, hey, the Sixers lost to the Knicks because, right? The Sixers are just not a good matchup against the Knicks. I don't think. A lot of this has to do with matchups. They don't have the kind of offensive shot creation, ball movement, right? When Max, again, when Max is your starting point guard, and I mean, they're not a hard team to defend offensively, right? They have guys that chuck threes, right? Korkmaz, Danny Green, 39-year-old Danny Green, guys just chucking stuff. But a lot of the times it's just they're chucking it, hoping it goes in. It just really has no flow to it, and just having Simmons not there, it does make an impact, right? The Simmons, if nothing else, he can set them up better. They just don't have that, and their ball movement is not good. They don't get easy shots, and it's easier for a team like the Knicks to team defend them. Right, against faster teams with explosive guards, the Knicks have trouble because they don't have the individual covering skills. But against this team like the Sixers, they can defend this team.
Yeah,
So,
I think I've seen that like every team with like a a starter / all-star caliber point guard the Knicks have lost to,
they have problems with.
or like
Right.
a decent scoring point guard because
Right.
I'm not going to call Anthony any of those things,
Right.
but he's been very good ever since we beat the Magic the first time, but it's neither here nor there. Kyle, why don't you got any final thoughts on tonight's game?
On tonight's game, I think you said everything I need to say. Final thoughts in general?
Oh,
I mean, so I saw Dune the other day. I can't tell if it was good or not.
wait, the
Well,
new
it's
was that
only
the
half. It's only half a movie, so it's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't tell.
The weird thing about it is like they didn't like pick like a logical like endpoint
I
of
know,
it either.
right?
Like they just kind of like left it off in like the middle of the thing, and especially like for a weird thing because I went to the movie theater for it. I don't know if you did or not as well.
Full. I was like, you know what? I hear it's very visual, very like sensory experience. I might as well like go see it in full IMAX, whatever.
But yeah, so like the whole last 15 minutes, I was like, oh, that seems like a good spot to end a movie. That seems like a good spot to end the movie. That also seems like a good spot to end.
And when it ended, I was like,
and then
why did it end here?
Yeah, and it was like 10 minutes later. I was like, that's not where you're supposed to end this movie.
Yeah,
Well, wait.
There was the part where the doctor lady spoilers, I guess, for a movie about a 50-year-old book that's based on a 40-year-old movie, whatever. Doctor lady that sacrificed herself, and it's really cool. I'm like, man, this could have been like a good endpoint. We just had 2 heroic sacrifices, and then it keeps going for like another 45 minutes.
Yeah, it was such a pain.
Well, did you guys?
I kept thinking that the part where like they finally meet up with the Freeman, and there's like that like kind of like angelic shot of the girl that plays Peter Parker's girlfriend
Zendaya.
in the yeah, I don't know her name, sorry.
Yeah.
But I was just like, that seems like a good spot to end the movie because it's like kind of on a cliffhanger. They just meet the Freeman. You don't know what's going to necessarily happen, and that was still like 10 minutes from the end of the movie.
Yeah, it just kept going. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my god.
Wait, did you guys watch the original Dune?
No, I didn't.
Oh, you should. It's got the same kind of vibe. You're like, but why?
Yeah, I have not seen the original, but I know
You
what happens
should.
in it.
Yeah.
I did start reading the book though.
The book is I didn't read the book, but the book is definitely supposed to be a lot better.
Yeah.
The original movie, you guys, make sure you if you're gonna watch it, it's not late at night and you're not tired.
Yeah, I've seen some stuff from it. It is pretty trippy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It was like that was the back in your day. That's what all
That
the
was
kids
the
like.
you got it.
Do a little bit of that homemade that spice melange and watch that.
Yep.
Yeah, I started reading the book too. I made about like 100 pages of it, and then I let my Kindle die, and I decided to not charge it for a year and a half. So I could probably pick up. It was I just got to the scene right as the Harkonnens started attacking.
See, like
the Atreides.
Hold on, because we're gonna keep going with this for a bit. This is something else I don't understand, right? Like, it makes no sense to me that the Emperor would side with the Harkonnens, because like the movie sets them up as like, man, they're growing too powerful. Better at get them in a clan war so it weakens both. But then the Emperor explicitly chooses the Harkonnen side and gives them an overwhelming victory, so they don't lose anything. So what was the whole goddamn point? Like, if you're set up, hey, the Emperor's scared of the Atreides, you should set that up and not, hey, the Harkonnens are this rising power, because that doesn't make any sense.
Guess maybe we'll find out the answer in part 2.
It's whatever.
Or one would hope, or maybe it's just like a really shitty plot hole.
It probably is.
A book, a 50-year-old book.
Yeah, it probably is.
Some books are just not meant for movies.
Yeah, yep. So, anyways, next time on the No Blood No Foul movie podcast, we'll talk about the Eternals.
Yep.
If only it comes out on Disney Plus for free before that, because that seems like a movie that I don't want to pay for.
You probably shouldn't.
Yeah, I'm excited because Shang-Chi comes out on Disney Plus in the next couple of days.
I already did the outro. We're talking about this stuff next time on the movie podcast.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh yeah.
We should just do that. Whenever the Knicks lose, we just make it just entirely all like movies, TV shows, just pretend that the Knicks didn't even play.
Yeah, that actually would be that's a good idea.
Yeah, so just to do something different.
Yeah.
All right. So, anyways, next time on the No Blood No Foul movie podcast,
we might talk about.
Are we still on air right now?
Yes.
Yeah,
we are.
Close it
man,
out.
I just started.
I'm trying to get you guys to close it out. Come on, let's go.
Oh, sorry. So the pulling teeth game. The Knicks win. Hooray! 103-96 to an extremely undermanned 76ers team. A win is a win. Who are we playing next? I'm assuming it's Wednesday, right? Oh, we got Milwaukee again?
Yeah.
What's going on with this schedule? We're playing them 3 times in the first month and a half. All right, so we got Milwaukee again Wednesday. I think Chris Middleton is probably going to still be in
protocol. Right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yep.
It looks like a home game. Oh, also on ESPN that same night they have Detroit Houston. Somehow that is a national TV game.
Yikes.
But this is another episode of the No Blood No Foul podcast. I'm your host Jim with Moo